On December 12, 2024, 18-year-old MyAngel Walker was reported missing after she failed to show up for her job at National Healthcare in Clinton, South Carolina. Her absence was immediately considered unusual due to her consistent work attendance. Local law enforcement launched a search, expanding efforts across Lawrence, Greenwood, and Newberry counties. The next day, December 13th, authorities discovered a burned vehicle on McKenzie Road in Greenwood County. Inside, investigators located human remains, later confirmed to be Walker. The investigation determined that she had been shot on the night of December 11th in Clinton before her body was moved. Within days, two suspects were identified. 19-year-old Malachi Jules Presley, charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and 19-year-old Taylor Kennard, charged as an accessory after fact. Both were denied bond as the case moved forward toward trial.
MyAngel Walker's family spent the day comforting one another and mourning their loss.
Our Nate Stanley spoke with the family. He has their message tonight.
MyAngel's family remembers her as a sweet, hardworking girl who was loved by many throughout the Lawrence community.
We're not hoping for justice because we know we will get justice for MyAngel.
A mother searching for strength after her 18-year-old daughter was found dead Friday. Her body found in a burned car.
She didn't deserve that, most definitely different. And it shows you, some of the things that take place out here in this world.
MyAngel's family says she'd put smiles on the faces of everyone she met.
Stay with us as we unravel the shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. MyAngel Walker was 18 years old and a member of the 2024 graduating class of Lawrence District High School. She held certification as a nursing assistant and was employed as a certified nursing assistant, CNA, at the National Health Center in Clinton. Her employment record at the health center was described as reliable. She fulfilled scheduled shifts and was reported by colleagues as consistently punctual. Her academic record shows graduation in 2024 from Lawrence District High School. School participation included membership in athletic programs and extracurricular activities. School rosters and yearbook entries list her as participating in track, basketball, and cheer activities. Those records indicate regular attendance at practice and games during her tenure. Faculty records and public school listings identify her as active in school spirit events and community activities coordinated through the school. Family statements and public comments describe her as energetic and engaged in daily responsibilities. Family members publicly use the phrase, a burst of energy, when characterizing her demeanor. Employment records indicate she took her role as a CNA seriously and planned to pursue nursing as a career. Multiple sources connected to her school and workplace listed her future goal as entering a nursing program or continuing professional certification in healthcare. Within her immediate community, she was known to peers, teachers, and coworkers. Publicly available statements from school staff and workplace supervisors emphasize her consistent presence at work and school functions. Membership and attendance lists for school activities and workplace shift log establish that she maintained regular contact with colleagues and classmates. Those administrative records were used by investigators and family members to confirm patterns of routine and identify deviations from that routine when they occurred. On December 12, 2024, MyAngel Walker did not report for her scheduled shift at the National Health Center in Clinton. The absence was marked as uncharacteristic in comparison to prior attendance records. A supervisor of the health center documented the missed shift and attempted routine contact by phone. Documentation shows the initial employer outreach occurred the morning her absence was noted. When standard outreach produced no response, the family was notified and concern escalated. Family members initiated further attempts to establish contact. After outreach efforts by both employer and family failed to locate her, her mother filed a missing person report with the Lawrence Police Department. The formal report included identifying information, the last known workplace, typical daily routines, and names of close contacts. The missing person report also listed relevant personal property, such as the vehicle driven, known phone numbers, and social media accounts that could assist investigators. Following receipt of the report, Lawrence police opened an investigation and applied standard missing person procedures. The Clinton Police Department joined law enforcement efforts, given that Clinton was the location of her workplace and her last known movements. Investigative coordination was established to ensure resources and jurisdictional authority were aligned across Lawrence and Clinton law enforcement units. Because the initial disappearance suggested an unplanned deviation from established routines, investigators categorized the case as suspicious and mobilized additional resources. Investigative actions initiated in the first 24 hours included administrative and field measures designed to establish a timeline and identify potential witnesses. Investigators reviewed shift logs and employer records to confirm the last scheduled and confirmed presence at the workplace. They requested access to phone records and device metadata to determine last activity and potential location pings. Standard procedure also included canvassing areas associated with the victim's regular movements, workplace vicinity, school routes, and known social locations to identify surveillance cameras, speak with witnesses, and gather information about the last observed movements. Authorities circulated a request for public assistance and asked anyone with information to report it. The requests included basic identifying details and directions for submitting tips. Investigators compiled a list of known associates and persons of interest based on family input and the victim's communications history. Interview teams began structured interviews with family members, friends, co-workers, and acquaintances to document interactions in the days preceding the disappearance and identify any recent changes in behavior, relationships, or plans. Because the initial circumstances were described as suspicious, law enforcement expanded the search footprint beyond Lawrence County. The search area was widened to include Newberry and Greenwood counties to account for possibility of travel outside the immediate jurisdiction. Coordination among multiple county agencies enabled the exchange of information, real-time updates, and shared resources for searching larger geographic areas. Field teams divided responsibilities for targeted searches, surveillance review, and witness follow-up. Investigators prioritized the recovery of electronic evidence and physical records that could narrow the time window of the disappearance. This included subpoena requests for call detail records where permitted, preservation requests for social media content, collection of traffic camera and business surveillance footage along potential routes, and documentation of vehicle records related to the victim. Forensic teams prepared to process any recovered items for trace evidence and analyze device metadata for location indicators. Parallel to the technical investigation, law enforcement implemented community outreach to inform residents of the active search and to solicit additional information. These outreach efforts included press statements reporting the missing person status, contact lines for tips, and requests for anyone who may have observed unusual activity to come forward. Investigators used notices to request footage from local businesses and residences that operated cameras covering public streets and thoroughfares between Lawrence, Clinton, and adjacent areas. By the end of the initial operational period, law enforcement had established a documented timeline of last confirmed activities and had taken steps to preserve potential evidence sources. Administrative records, school, employment, and communications logs were compiled. Field canvasses and interviews were ongoing. The multi-county search and investigative collaboration marked an escalation from a routine missing person response to an active, suspicious circumstance inquiry requiring coordinated investigative resources. The immediate investigative priorities were to locate the victim, confirm her well-being, and identify any indications of criminal activity or third-party involvement. Subsequent investigative phases were planned to include forensic analysis of any recovered devices or items, follow-up interviews with persons of interest, continued analysis of surveillance material, and the integration of evidence gathered across Lawrence, Newberry, and Greenwood counties. On December 13, 2024, a burned vehicle was located on Mackenzie Road in Greenwood County, South Carolina. The discovery followed an active search that began when 18-year-old MyAngel Walker was reported missing the previous day. Authorities responding to the scene quickly determined that the charred vehicle was linked to the missing person case. Inside the vehicle, investigators found a body. The remains were later confirmed through law enforcement channels to be those of MyAngel Walker. The investigation into cause of death revealed that Walker had sustained a gunshot wound. This single detail shifted the investigation away from an unexplained disappearance and established the case as an active homicide. Officials announced that the shooting had occurred between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. on December 11th, 2024, on Gary Street in Clinton, South Carolina. The transition from a missing persons case to a homicide occurred within a 24-hour time frame. The burned vehicle was found in a secluded location, a rural stretch of McKenzie Road in Greenwood County. Fire damage to the vehicle made initial identification of the victim and details at the scene difficult. The discovery came less than 24 hours after Walker had been reported missing, providing investigators with the first direct link between her disappearance and foul play. Law enforcement officers documented the scene extensively. Photographs, forensic samples, and other evidence were collected from the vehicle and its surroundings. The rapid confirmation of the body inside was Walker's provided both closure on her whereabouts and grounds for immediate escalation of the investigation. Subsequent forensic analysis confirmed that Walker's death resulted from a gunshot wound. The details shared by investigators established that the shooting occurred the night before her disappearance was officially reported, narrowing the timeline significantly. The location of the shooting was identified as Gary Street in Clinton, a residential area. The medical confirmation of a firearm-related death established the crime as a homicide under South Carolina law. It also provided the critical evidence needed to connect suspects to the act and secure arrest warrants.
We called you here today. We have a man charged with murder of the MyAngel Walker. So we've charged him, he's 19, with the murder of MyAngel Walker, 18. On December 12th, 2024, family members of MyAngel Walker reported her missing to the Lawrence Police Department. During the course of the investigation, it was determined that Walker was last seen in the city limits here in Clinton. A joint investigation was immediately launched by Clinton Police Department and Lawrence Police Department. As the investigation advanced, it extended into Newberry County and Greenwood County. With additional assistance from the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, Newberry County Sheriff's Office, Greenwood County Sheriff's Office, and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, we started as a missing person case has now tragically turned into a homicide investigation. Officers, investigators, and agents will work diligently together to solve this case and bring justice for MyAngel Walker. Presley has been arrested and charged today, December the 13th, with the murder of MyAngel Walker. Presley has been charged with murder and possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. Additionally, Taylor Connard, 19, has been arrested and charged as an accessory after the fact in connection with this case. Both subjects are being held at Johnson Detention Center, and we'll have a bond hearing tomorrow at 9 a.m. This is an active investigation, and authorities are gathering evidence and conducting interviews still. If you have any information related to the case, please contact Clinton Police Department at 864-833-7512 or Crime Stoppers at 68 Crime. The Clinton Police Department, along with the supporting agencies, extends our deepest condolences to the family and the friends of MyAngel Walker during this difficult time.
The case began as a missing person report filed by Walker's family on December 12th, after she failed to report for a shift at a Clinton Health Center. Her consistent attendance and work ethic raised concerns immediately, leading law enforcement to treat the case with urgency. Within hours, multiple agencies were searching across Lawrence, Clinton, Greenwood, and Newberry counties. The following day's discovery of the burned vehicle with Walker's body inside changed the scope of the investigation. Authorities moved from attempting to locate a missing individual to gathering evidence in a homicide investigation. This rapid shift was unusual in its speed, underscoring the clarity of evidence at the discovery site and in early witness statements. The case required multi-agency coordination. The Lawrence Police Department and Clinton Police Department initially took the lead because Walker lived in Lawrence County and was last seen in Clinton. Once her body was discovered in Greenwood County, officials from that jurisdiction assumed investigative responsibilities as well. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, was also brought in to provide forensic analysis and statewide coordination. The collaboration between local police, county officials, and state investigators allowed evidence to be processed quickly and suspect identification to proceed without delay. This interagency approach was credited by officials as the reason the investigation moved forward at such speed. The investigation led authorities to two individuals, Malachi Jules Presley, age 19, and Taylor Kennard, also 19. Malachi Jules Presley, identified as Walker's on and off boyfriend, charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime, alleged by police to have been the person who shot Walker on the night of December 11th. His relationship with Walker placed him in close proximity, and investigative evidence tied him to the location of the shooting. Taylor Kennard, identified as an acquaintance of both Walker and Presley, charged as an accessory after the fact to murder. Law enforcement stated that Kennard had knowledge of the killing and assisted in disposing of Walker's body by helping with the burn vehicle. Her role was described as secondary, but her direct involvement in concealing the crime warranted criminal charges. The identification of these two suspects occurred swiftly after the discovery of the burn vehicle. Evidence from the crime scene, combined with investigative interviews and timelines, provided law enforcement with grounds to obtain warrants and secure arrests. Both Presley and Kennard were arrested within days of Walker's body being found. Their arrests were executed without incident, and they were transported to local detention centers for processing. Charges against Presley: murder, possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. Charges against Kennard: accessory after the fact to murder. Officials confirmed that both individuals face serious penalties if convicted, with Presley facing the possibility of a life sentence due to the murder charge. Bond hearings for both suspects were held shortly after their arrests. During these hearings, law enforcement presented the preliminary evidence supporting the charges. The presiding judge denied bond for both Presley and Kennard. The denial was based on the severity of the charges, the violent nature of the alleged crime, and the risk factors associated with releasing either suspect into the community. With bond denied, both remained in custody awaiting trial. At the time of reporting, both suspects were awaiting further court appearances. Presley's murder charge required presentation to a grand jury before trial proceedings could formally begin. Kennard's accessory charge followed a separate legal track, but remained tied to the outcome of the murder case. Law enforcement continued to gather forensic evidence, interview witnesses, and prepare the case for prosecution. The involvement of multiple jurisdictions required ongoing coordination between Lawrence County, Clinton authorities, Greenwood County investigators, and SLED. The death of 18-year-old MyAngel Walker brought forward an immediate response from her family members and the wider community in Lawrence and Clinton, South Carolina. Their words and actions after her passing provided insight into how the loss was perceived by those closest to her and by the community that had known her throughout her short life. Alongside these responses, media coverage played a key role in relaying updates to the public. From the initial missing person alerts to the courtroom developments that followed, reporting on the case maintained a structured timeline of events and statements that shaped public understanding of the situation. The family of MyAngel Walker gave several public statements after her death. These statements were aimed at describing who she was as a person, the kind of life she led, and the warnings her story carried for others. Her mother, Sod Woodruff, directly addressed the circumstances around the case by urging others to take notice of the people they surround themselves with. Her message was, "Be aware of who you're dealing with." She further advised, "Seek help if there are problems in relationships." This statement was significant because it connected the event of her daughter's death to a larger issue regarding the dangers of troubled or unsafe relationships. Her words were not centered solely on her own loss, but broadened the context to include anyone who might be experiencing conflict or danger in their personal lives. By doing so, she positioned her daughter's story as a cautionary example for others. The victim's aunt, Sherry Edwards, described her as hardworking and full of life. Edwards emphasized that Walker never missed work, highlighting her dedication and commitment to her responsibilities. Her words established the image of a young woman who was disciplined, reliable, and future-focused. By focusing on Walker's work ethic, Edwards reinforced the contrast between the victim's character and the tragic end that befell her. Walker's grandmother, Loretta Woodruff, contributed her own memories, centering on personal and family traditions. She recalled moments spent with her granddaughter, including Sunday family gatherings, meals, and time spent together that would no longer take place. Her statements highlighted the depth of the loss within the family unit. While not outwardly emotional in delivery, they provided factual insight into the victim's role as a family member and the sudden void her absence created. Together, the family statements built a factual profile, a young woman known for reliability, energy, and commitment whose life was cut short. Their comments also presented the case as not only a family tragedy, but also a broader reminder of how relationships can conceal dangers that may have serious consequences. The reaction extended beyond the immediate family into broader communities of Lawrence and Clinton, where Walker had lived, attended school, and worked. Reports documented widespread grief and acknowledgement of the suddenness of her death. In the days following the discovery of her body, community members organized vigils and tributes. Classmates, co-workers, and neighbors attended these gatherings, which served as public demonstrations of respect and remembrance. At these events, attendees spoke about her time in school, her athletic participation, and her professional goals. These vigils were not only spaces to acknowledge her life, but also symbolic acts of collective support for the grieving family. Co-workers from the health center where Walker was employed also participated in tributes. They emphasized that she was dependable, had strong ambition in her work, and was committed to becoming a nurse. This perspective showed how Walker was viewed in professional spaces, not only within her family and peer groups. The impact of the case also sparked public conversations around issues such as teen relationships, domestic violence, and personal safety. While the details of the case remain specific to Walker, her death became a starting point for broader discussions in the community. These discussions often centered on how to recognize warning signs in relationships and the importance of seeking help when problems escalate. Law enforcement officials and family members alike referenced this theme, underlining that the tragedy was not isolated but connected to ongoing concerns within communities everywhere. Overall, the community's response can be outlined in 3 dimensions: expressions of grief, organized vigils and tributes, and initiation of safety-focused conversations. Each of these responses reinforced the visibility of Walker's story and the importance of considering its wider implications. The coverage of Walker's disappearance and subsequent death followed a clear chronological pattern that closely aligned with law enforcement investigation and public updates. On December 12, 2024, after Walker did not appear at her job, her family reported her missing. Local media outlets quickly distributed missing person alerts, including her name, age, last known location, and descriptions. These alerts also included appeals for public assistance in locating her. On December 13, 2024, reports broke that a burned vehicle had been found in Greenwood County with a body inside. As soon as investigators confirmed the body was at Walker, this development was shared widely. Outlets updated the story to indicate that the case had transitioned from a missing person investigation to a homicide case. After the discovery, law enforcement officials from multiple agencies, including the Clinton Police Department, Lawrence Police Department, and South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, held press conferences. These sessions provided facts about the timeline of events, the charges against the suspects, and the involvement of multiple counties in the investigation. Officials also emphasized the seriousness of the case and confirmed that suspects were in custody within days of the discovery. Media outlets reported on the bond hearings of both suspects, Malachi Jules Presley and Taylor Kennard. Both individuals were denied bail. The coverage highlighted the charges: murder and weapon possession for Presley, and accessory after the fact for Kennard. The hearings received widespread attention as they marked the transition of the case into the judicial phase. Across outlets, the tone of reporting remained matter-of-fact and fact-driven, focusing on verified statements from law enforcement, court proceedings, and family members. Reports avoided speculation, instead centering on timelines, charges, and official accounts. Articles emphasized Walker's background, her recent high school graduation, work as a CNA, and her plans for the future. Statements from family members were included verbatim, without interpretation or added commentary. Coverage of the suspects focused strictly on the charges and their status in custody. Updates were provided regularly, with attention given to court schedules and the ongoing legal process. By maintaining this factual tone, the media ensured the case was presented clearly to the public without adding unverified details. The investigation into the death of MyAngel Walker quickly transitioned from a missing person search to a homicide case once her body was discovered in a burned vehicle in Greenwood County on December 13, 2024. The following days brought swift arrests. 19-year-old Malachi Jules Presley, identified as Walker's on-and-off boyfriend, was charged with murder and possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. Authorities allege that Presley shot Walker on December 11, 2024, between 10 and 11 p.m. on Gary Street in Clinton, South Carolina. A second suspect, 19-year-old Taylor Kennard, was arrested shortly thereafter. Kennard was charged as an accessory after the fact, accused of knowingly assisting Presley in concealing the crime. Investigators reported that Kennard played a role in disposing of the victim's body by helping move and conceal it in a burned vehicle later discovered by law enforcement. Both suspects were presented before bond hearings on December 14, 2024. In each case, the presiding judge denied bond. The decision was based on severity of the charges and concerns that the suspects could pose a flight risk or present a danger to the community if released. This means that both Presley and Kennard remain in custody as they await trial. The legal process is ongoing, with multiple anticipated stages ahead. Prosecutors are expected to present evidence including forensic findings, cell phone records, eyewitness statements, and possibly surveillance footage to support their charges. Forensic evidence may also include ballistics related to the weapon allegedly used, as well as examination of the burned vehicle where Walker's body was found. Witness testimony is also likely to play a crucial role. Investigators may call on individuals who knew both Walker and Presley to shed light on the nature of their relationship and any history of conflict or prior incidents. Law enforcement officials involved in the investigation will also be called to testify regarding the timeline of events, the recovery of the victim's body, and the gathering of evidence. Potential plea deals may emerge as the case progresses. Presley, facing the primary murder charge, may be offered the opportunity to plead guilty to a lesser charge in exchange for a reduced sentence. Kennard, charged as an accessory, could also pursue negotiations with prosecutors if she agrees to provide testimony or further cooperation. However, at this stage, both remain formally charged as originally indicted. The outcome of the legal proceedings will depend on how evidence is presented in court, whether the suspects maintain their not guilty positions, and the willingness of either defendant to engage in plea negotiations. Until a trial date is formally set and proceedings begin, both cases remain in the pre-trial stage. The case of MyAngel Walker highlights a series of broader issues that extend beyond the legal proceedings themselves. These themes reveal the complexity of crimes involving young people and the wider implications for community. The central connection between Walker and Presley raises concerns about the dynamics of young adult relationships. Authorities identified Presley as Walker's on-and-off boyfriend, suggesting a history of connection and separation. When violence emerges in such relationships, it underscores the risks that young people face in situations where power, jealousy, or control become factors. This case demonstrates the dangers of unhealthy or toxic relationships. For young adults, recognizing early signs of manipulation, threats, or instability is critical. Patterns of control or volatility in relationships can escalate, sometimes culminating in violence. The fact that Walker's case involves someone she knew personally reinforces the importance of awareness programs that educate teenagers and young adults about the risks of toxic partnerships. The need to recognize red flags early is also evident here. Relationship education, community support networks, and awareness campaigns can play a role in helping individuals identify when a relationship becomes unsafe. Prevention efforts could focus on providing resources, helplines, and intervention strategies to stop harmful situations before they escalate. This case also emphasizes the speed at which a situation can escalate. What began as a missing person report quickly transformed into a homicide investigation. Within 48 hours, the case had shifted from concern about a teenager's absence from work to the discovery of her body and the arrest of two suspects. Such rapid developments highlight the importance of swift response by law enforcement and interagency cooperation. In Walker's case, the Lawrence Police Department, Clinton Police Department, Greenwood County officials, and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, collaborated in the investigation. Their ability to coordinate resources and share information was crucial in quickly identifying suspects and moving forward with charges. The broader issue is that community safety depends not only on law enforcement action after crime occurs, but also on proactive measures. Awareness, public engagement, and community policing strategies are key components to preventing tragedies before they occur. At the core of the case is the reminder of how fragile young lives are. Walker was 18 years old, a recent graduate, employed, and preparing for a career in healthcare. Her trajectory illustrates the potential contributions of young people to their communities. The ripple effect of a violent crime extends beyond the immediate victim. Families are left with permanent loss, while communities absorb the impact of fear, grief, and unanswered questions. Schools, workplaces, and peer groups all feel the consequences of such events. The death of a young adult like Walker demonstrates the broader cost of violence on society as a whole. The fact that both the victim and suspects were teenagers underscores the vulnerability of youth on both sides of the criminal spectrum. It raises questions about how young adults navigate relationships, conflicts, and decision-making processes. Addressing these questions is essential in reducing future incidents of similar nature. The case of MyAngel Walker remains in the hands of the justice system. 2 suspects are charged, Malachi Presley with murder and weapon possession, and Taylor Kennard as an accessory after the fact. Both were denied bond, and their trials are pending. The final outcomes will depend on the strength of evidence presented, the course of prosecution, and potential plea negotiations. Beyond the courtroom, the case resonates for its broader implications. It highlights the dangers of toxic relationships among young adults, emphasizing the importance of recognizing warning signs early. It reveals how quickly a missing person case can escalate into a homicide investigation, underscoring the role of law enforcement collaboration in addressing threats to community safety. And it reminds society of the fragility of youth, where one violent act can erase years of potential and leave a lasting impact on families and communities. Unanswered questions remain. The exact motive behind the crime, the full scope of the relationship dynamics between Walker and Presley, and the level of involvement by Kennard. These gaps ensure that the case continues to resonate until trial proceedings provide greater clarity. Ultimately, the justice system will determine accountability. What cannot change is the permanent loss that occurred. For the community, the family, and those who knew her, the events of December 2024 serve as a stark reminder of how quickly life can be altered by violence, and how important it is to confront the circumstances that allow such events to occur. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.